So I kind of want to go over some of like my experience with D&D and RPGs in general, and kind of how I like to play now versus how I played when I was younger. When I was younger, I min-maxed a lot. My dad had started us out on 3.0 D&D and then kind of into 3.5 and into Pathfinder. I was 12, 13 when I first started. Kind of played all the way up through, high school and then into Job Corps. Took a kind of 5 year break after Job Corps. I didn't really have a group, didn't have a lot of friends when I moved to where I was at. But when I was younger, my dad, I assumed, wanted us to play, me and my siblings, because, well, once we took to it, it was good reading, good math, and solved good problem solving skills, and it worked. We really liked it. We had a lot of fun, and it really did markedly improve our reading and our math. I hated math. I hated English when I was younger, but when I was in middle school, I think I had like a college reading level according to those little tests they would give you when you're in middle school. And I read a lot until basically I had to have reading glasses, and I just gave up on reading, and I just listened to audiobooks. Have Audible, and now I have like, gosh, hundreds of books on Audible that have had that subscription for like 10 years. But as a result, like D&D helped me with math, with reading, and problem solving skills, just like he thought it would. And I think it's really good for that. Now, since I was younger and I had more time to read the books than my dad, I ended up becoming that little min maxy rules lawyer kid. And that didn't really stop. Even when I was kind of playing with groups when I was, in high school and in Job Corps. But my dad's answer though was that we're not playing D&D anymore. We're Pathfinder. He's gonna write his own one-page rule set, and that's kind of the basis for the one-page rules that I'm gonna use for Pathfinder going forward. Um, but as a result, we had a lot of arguments, and D&D turned into a less fun experience and more of argumentation. And so this is still sort of a problem that I'm growing out of. Is like I like to min max, or I did like to min max a lot, and so now I'm kind of taking the opposite stance. I like to randomly generate most of my character's features, and then whatever is not randomly generated, I will kind of min max or find the cool ways to do it. Like in Chris's campaign, I'm dual wielding lances, but like I'm a weird fairy who can fly but rides a horse because the mounted combat really helps my lance abilities. Um, Whereas pretty much everything else in the character is randomly generated. I find that randomly generating can curtail my min maxing and my player versus character knowledge. Like I can think outside the box pretty easily. Growing up in D&D, I'm really good at problem solving some fantasy scenarios, and thinking of outside the box uses for spells, so weird items in the game, stuff like that. I'm pretty good at that. But like randomly generating my characters gives me a worldview for that character, and it helps me think of ways to limit my thought process to what that character would do. Yeah, it's a meme, what the character would do, but I legitimately think that this character is an entity outside my own, and I want to play them the best as possible. A lot of people play like games like The Witcher, and they're making decisions as Geralt, but like they're not. A lot of these people haven't read the lore or like don't know Geralt's like worldview very deeply. So like they'll do all kinds of fucked up shit, killing people. But like in D&D, I try to, if my character's lawful good, I'm gonna look into lawful good. I'm gonna read up lawful good. I'm gonna take, well, here's what some of the randomly generated stuff from this character, and I'm gonna try to make them fit into lawful good as best I can. This lawful good may not be a good person. They might be a utopian. They might be like an awful person to like most everybody, but like this specific lawful good thing. You know, paladins can be bad, but still be lawful good. They can be scary, but like bad to certain groups of people because of how lawful they are, or like the way they express that lawful good. Um, I like dialing into like deeper philosophical points or moral points with my characters. Me saying this is what my character would do is frustrating, or it can be frustrating for other players, but it's mostly, I find, frustrating to players who like to metagame and who min max. Coming from somebody who min max, I know if I was sitting at a table and this one guy chose to do something against the party, um, because of his character's morals versus what the party should do to have the best chance of winning an encounter or winning this fight, it would probably have annoyed the shit out of me. So I'm sort of learning and going to the opposite path. I'll probably settle at somewhere in a middle ground, but I'm having a lot of fun, like, you know, not thinking smartly, not thinking tactically or what's most viable in the game, and more about, hey, this is a character, this is a person, this has their own thoughts, motivations, and reasons why they're doing what they're doing. And if a character decide or another character decides that they're gonna tell my character that, what the way they are seeing the world is wrong, they're gonna have to work very hard to convince them, or my character is gonna be at odds with that character, which I think tells a good story. Now, are other players not going to like that? Well, at that point, we have to have a conversation. Like, hey, listen. So either your character is going to back off and stop being a prick, or our character's going to fight. One of us are going to die. Or it may be a decision where I might have to play a new character because this character might be radical. Or they'll say, hey, my character's opinion on this is too radical. Maybe I need to play a new character. It hasn't happened yet because I haven't played as many campaigns. I think we're on our third campaign in the last couple years. And where I'm a player, and I think that obviously my views will change, but right now we haven't had a big problem with that. If anything, I think we've gotten in very few fights and more like arguments or fake banter. Most of our differences in our characters' morals and philosophies on how we play the world are just expressed in banter. There was a couple ones in one of our big ending kind of campaign pieces of our first campaign where my character was using the Book of Lathander to convince one of the other characters that her deity was real. And I think that worked really well because his character didn't believe. But when I rolled it out, it's hard for him to argue that as that type of character he was. And so his character converted. Now, that also could have completely turned into a fight. Um, but he was cool about it and he liked how it told the story. However, not everybody's going to see it that way. And sometimes when you push stuff like that, your character just has to back off. It's like, okay, we don't talk about politics or religion as my character just because we know that it doesn't really mesh with everybody else's. Um, in game, anyway. Um, so now most everything I play is generated, and I really love the story that it tells, and it curtails my min maxing. Um, it can be a little annoying for a DM who's trying to plan a game because a lot of times DMs will plan towards this is the kind of person that I know my player is, and it gets really wacky when suddenly your 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 super smart player decides he's going to play a dumb, um, militaristic, devout, like servant of the dictatorship because of the alignment and the way the stats got generated or the features and ideals for that character got generated. And so he's just like, whoa, where'd this come from? Example is our current campaign, the one we're also going to play tonight, whereas we're on our second session. But last one was my character is this super loyal militaristic soldier, and he wasn't necessarily ready for that, and I don't blame him. If my player was like, all right, we're going to get a bunch of military legal all of a sudden, I'd be like, oh, fuck, after the session, or I'd have to take a break and look into some. Maybe we have a conversation about it. And I don't really warn him either. I asked him a couple questions about the world, and I was like, okay, I can work with that. I can work with that military. And he didn't really understand because this character, there's a lot of moral ambiguity in how that character is going to operate. But it's really fun. Yeah, I felt in the last session that with that character, it kind of took a lot of the spotlight. I'm going to work on that. But I think it was really fun, and he said everybody's having fun, and he's the DM, and the other players didn't express any issues, so I think we're going okay. But if it becomes an issue, I've already kind of thought of a process. If I come to an issue, I might say, hey, can we take a break? And I'll try to talk to the other player. Hey, I know where are you trying to go with your character? You have an arc specified, yours, because I don't want to ruin your story. I want to have my own story for my character, but it's a cooperative thing. Ideally, if everybody's despite their character's beliefs, if we can all align towards the same goal and finish our arcs together, that would be perfect. But we can't do that if we don't explain to each other what the ideals are that we want to have our characters or our character arcs. Another problem with that is if you want to be an edgelord and you want to keep stuff secret to the other players and you want to have fun reveals. Well, my last character was like that. You know, she had this arc where she was going to try to go to like lawful good to lawful evil to lawful good, um, good bad all the ugly in between. And but she was a child, so it makes sense. She still figures things out in the world. That kind of threw everything off because my character, the other players didn't understand really how my character would react to a lot of things because she was consistently changing. And so we had to talk about that a little bit. I'm like, so, you know, how do you think your character would react if this thing happened? I give hypotheticals before moving on. But all of that to say, essentially, is like when I say like what my character would do, I've put a lot of work into thinking about why that is, and not just because I'm going to use it as an excuse to do mean shit to my other players. Whether I'm a DM, wouldn't accept that answer unless they have good reason why, or I believe that that character and player fit together in a way in the story that makes sense. Like, and there's been a couple times where I've had to like flesh out some of my ideals to the other players or DMs when I say this is why my character would do this. I'd have to explain some backstory piece they don't understand to justify it. And I don't make it up. I like I said, randomly generated. I can pull up the screenshot of all the randomly generated shit. But when I'm metagaming or like min-max character says, I'm going to do this because of what my character do, but it doesn't have any background or ideals or fleshed out reasons why his character would do that. He's just doing because that's what he wants to do. That's where that this is what my character does argument sucks and is stupid. So but that's sort of like how I do my games. I was min maxing when I was younger. Now I'm this hardcore role play, like moral, philosophical, backgrounded role play side of things now, with a little min max to make my character at least stay alive, unless it generates some weird. I'm going to use some dumb weapons, but that's kind of a little bit about that. Thank you guys.